happening right now. DiJonai Carrington is looking around the room like, oh my God, I've never been in this much fire. I mean, it's getting so bad that now her endorsements are potentially about to pull out on representing DiJonai Carrington. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the tribe, like the video.
A massive corporate earthquake has just struck the basketball endorsement world as major footwear and apparel giant Reebok is reportedly preparing to drop Chicago Sky guard DiJonai Carrington from her multi-million-dollar endorsement deal following her violent mid-air clothesline on Indiana's Sophie Cunningham. In the wake of Carrington's flagrant foul 2 ejection, her post-game shouting about white privilege, and her hostile online threat referencing August 23rd, corporate sponsors are facing an unprecedented tidal wave of consumer backlash. Thousands of sports fans and consumers flooded brand communication channels, demanding that Reebok enforce the strict morals clause in Carrington's contract and immediately terminate her sponsorship agreement. For an athlete who thought social media deflection and academic posturing would shield her from consequences, hitting her directly in her wallet represents the ultimate form of professional accountability. Digital creators, commentary platforms, and national news networks are breaking down the seismic financial fallout, asking the central question that is rocking the sports business landscape. Is DiJonai Carrington's looming corporate cancellation the turning point that forces dirty players to finally clean up their act? When you analyze how fast this commercial fallout escalated, it becomes clear that modern sports marketing operates in an era of heightened consumer transparency. Fans are no longer willing to support brands that sponsor athletes who engage in non-basketball physical violence and toxic social media warfare. In years past, off-court controversies might have faded without significant commercial blowback, but with millions of new, highly engaged eyeballs watching every single possession of Indiana Fever basketball, on-court actions carry immediate economic consequences. Commentary channels like JTL Sports noted that Carrington's decision to commit an egregious foul, shout racial accusations, and post hostile warnings online created a public relations disaster that no major corporation can afford to defend. As corporate executives review customer feedback and evaluate brand risk, the prospect of losing lucrative endorsement revenue is sending shockwaves throughout the entire league. When millions of consumers mobilize to hold athletes accountable, corporate brands must choose between defending a controversial athlete or protecting their bottom line. The public backlash demonstrates that fans will actively boycott brands that enable reckless behavior.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Hit them where it hurt. Hit them in the pockets, bro. Now, this is a report that has come out. Let me blow it all the way up for y'all so y'all can see this. It says, perfect. Good job, Reebok, for having morals clause in her contract and enforcing by pulling it. Carrington is a bully that the league apparently is protecting. Wake up, WNBA, before someone get really hurt. You'll get sued because we Americans won't stand for the abuse. Now, it states here, Reebok is reportedly dropping their...
To understand why Reebok's potential contract termination carries such massive weight, you have to look at the financial reality of modern professional athletes. While player salaries in women's basketball continue to evolve, commercial brand partnerships, signature apparel lines, and shoe deals represent the vast majority of an elite athlete's long-term earning potential. When a global corporation signs an athlete to a lucrative promotional contract, they invest millions of dollars to align their brand identity with sportsmanship, athletic integrity, and positive consumer appeal. However, when an endorsed athlete commits an egregious mid-air physical foul, gets ejected on national television, and immediately runs to social media to spew inflammatory racial accusations, that athlete instantly transforms into a massive corporate liability. Sports commentary channels like JTL Sports pointed out that common sense should have warned Carrington that delivering a dangerous clothesline to an airborne shooter would trigger severe consequences for her financial livelihood. Major corporate sponsors do not invest millions to be dragged into online racial controversies and fan boycotts. Enforcing standard contract morals clauses protects corporate reputation and sends an unmistakable message across the league that reckless on-court violence has severe financial penalties. When athletes realize that dirty plays will directly hit their bank accounts, on-court behavior changes rapidly. No brand executive will risk global reputation to protect an athlete who refuses to display basic professional decorum. Economic pressure remains the most effective deterrent against dangerous fouls, forcing athletes to reconsider reckless actions on the floor. Maintaining corporate partnerships requires upholding standards of sportsmanship that appeal to a diverse customer base worldwide. When players damage their marketability through hostile conduct, sponsors inevitably seek safer alternatives.
No other. She ain't even all that on the basketball court anyways. Common sense would have told you not to clothesline Sophie Cunningham from hell. Because you want to know why? The backlash you're going to get from that decision will affect your pockets. And I'm so happy that these brands are now seeing what we've been seeing. A whole lot of BS going on from these players. And I'm telling you right now, more players need to lose brand deals when they do stupidity, especially to...
The controversy intensified after television analyst Emmanuel Acho delivered a scathing, highly articulate response dismantling Carrington's defensive social media claims. After Carrington attempted to gaslight the public by claiming people lacked critical thinking skills and insisted her white privilege post had nothing to do with her flagrant foul ejection, Acho stepped in to set the record straight. Acho explained that in American society, communication operates on a speaker-oriented standard, meaning the responsibility of clarity and context rests entirely on the person speaking, not the audience listening. Acho pointed out that when an athlete gets ejected for a violent foul against a white player, immediately posts the inflammatory phrase "white privilege" while tagging the Indiana Fever, and offers zero alternative explanation, common sense dictates exactly what was implied. For Carrington to act as though she is the sole genius in the room while dismissing the entire sports world as idiotic is a deeply flawed intellectual stance. Acho challenged Carrington directly, asking her that if she was not referring to the foul, what exactly was she talking about? Carrington's inability to provide a coherent answer proved to millions of viewers that her post was an impulsive, race-based excuse designed to deflect blame from her dangerous athletic misconduct. Expecting the entire sporting public to decipher hidden meanings behind vague buzzwords is an insult to viewers' intelligence. When an athlete posts inflammatory statements publicly, they cannot run away from the obvious context when called out on a national stage. Accountability requires standing by your words or issuing a sincere public apology, rather than attacking the critical thinking of the audience. Public figures must understand that words carry real consequences across the globe. Deflecting responsibility only compounds public skepticism.
I had some words for DiJonai.
First and foremost, respect to DiJonai, because I actually appreciate somebody that can come to a conversation with a little bit of intellect. So I appreciate that first and foremost. Kudos to you, DiJonai Carrington. And also, I do not stand with those that are coming at you and attacking your personhood. Attack the action, but don't attack the person. So let me also preface with that. With that being said, DiJonai, you can't act as though you discovered the moon. You can't act as though you are the genius in a room and everybody else is idiotic. What I mean by that is, if you are going to suggest that we should think critically about a statement white privilege when you at the Indiana Fever, you didn't give us much to think critically about.
Acho's breakdown highlighted the complete failure of Carrington's attempt to use academic degrees from Stanford and Baylor as rhetorical shields. Digital commentators noted that boasting about university credentials becomes entirely meaningless when an athlete fails to demonstrate basic intellectual honesty. If an individual drops a volatile, racially charged phrase on social media without context, expecting the general public to guess a secret meaning is illogical. Commentators like JTL Sports emphasized that even prominent Black analysts and creators are refusing to defend Carrington's actions, noting that accountability must apply equally across all races. When an athlete commits a flagrant, non-basketball foul that endangers another human being, hiding behind victimhood narratives alienates objective sports fans who demand integrity. Acho's measured, respectful, yet devastating critique exposed Carrington's contradictions on a national stage, further damaging her marketability and accelerating the corporate pushback against her brand. Boasting about academic degrees while failing to take responsibility for on-court violence reveals profound intellectual immaturity that corporate sponsors refuse to endorse. Real intellectual rigor demands taking ownership of mistakes rather than creating rhetorical smokescreens. Fans expect athletes to demonstrate maturity, both in interviews and on social media, upholding the highest standards of professional conduct. Deflecting blame through academic credentials only deepens the credibility gap in the eyes of the public. True leaders hold themselves to the highest standard of athletic excellence.
Receiver-oriented, speaker-oriented country, it is on you, the speaker, to be clear, to be direct, and to be obvious with what you are speaking about. It is not on the receiver, the reader, or the listener. If we were in a listener-oriented country, completely different. Onus is on me. America is a speaker-oriented country, so the onus is on you. If you want to tweet out white privilege with no context and simply assume that we should try to understand what you're talking about, you didn't say much for us to figure out what you're talking about, so you allowed the whole world to run with it. Last thing I will say is very simply, so many people have asked you, amongst others, well then what are you talking about?
The fallout has now reached national news broadcasts, with major networks like Fox News dedicating prominent broadcast segments to the Carrington scandal. On air, national commentators broke down the timeline of Carrington's social media activity, emphasizing that posting inflammatory claims just 30 minutes after a flagrant 2 ejection represents a catastrophic failure of crisis management. Media analysts noted that standard crisis public relations requires owning the mistake, explaining what went wrong, and taking immediate corrective action, none of which Carrington or league officials demonstrated. Fox News contributors also directed heavy criticism toward WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, arguing that the lack of executive leadership and failure to enforce strict player discipline has allowed the league to descend into constant controversy. By failing to reprimand players who commit dirty hits, threaten peers on social media, or break technology policies during games, league leadership has created an environment where corporate sponsors feel forced to take disciplinary matters into their own hands. When brands like Reebok decide to drop endorsements because commissioners refuse to issue game suspensions, it signals a massive institutional breakdown in league governance. Fans and sponsors alike are demanding transparent leadership that prioritizes player safety and clean competition. Corporate sponsors will not stand by silently while league officials allow chaos to undermine their multi-million-dollar investments. Establishing clear boundaries is essential for the league's commercial stability and public image. Executive inaction forces brands to protect their own financial interests aggressively. Sustaining corporate relationships requires decisive league governance.
Situation, and let's give it a buzz.
Responding to the white privilege post, saying in part, "I've never once claimed that the assessment of the foul was white privilege. That was your assumption. Try exercising your critical thinking skills. I know you studied psych. I would never use that term as a rhetorical weapon, knowing the historical and social weight it holds without having the proper evidence to substantiate it." Sage, she posted that and is now claiming it didn't apply to the foul that was called or the ejection. I mean, come on.
In conclusion, DiJonai Carrington's looming loss of major corporate endorsements proves that on-court actions have real-world financial consequences. While WNBA leadership continues to hesitate on issuing necessary player suspensions, the corporate marketplace and passionate sports consumers are stepping up to enforce accountability. As Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and the Indiana Fever continue to elevate women's basketball into a multi-billion-dollar mainstream phenomenon, athletes who choose dirty physical plays and toxic social media warfare will find themselves completely alienated from lucrative corporate deals. Moving forward, this controversy marks a critical turning point for the business of women's professional basketball. Brands that invest millions into athlete endorsements are making it clear that sportsmanship, integrity, and personal accountability are non-negotiable requirements. Athletes who want to benefit from the league's historic growth must understand that reckless physical fouls and divisive social media antics will cost them millions in corporate revenue. True athletic greatness is built on discipline, integrity, and elite skill on the hardwood, not manufactured drama that destroys personal brand value. The future of sports belongs to athletes who let their performance speak on the court. Commercial sponsors will continue to reward players who embody excellence, setting a high standard for the next generation of professional basketball. The era of unchecked on-court hostility is ending as financial accountability takes center stage, ensuring that player safety and genuine athletic excellence prevail across all levels of competition. Protecting the integrity of the sport guarantees a prosperous future for all athletes.